Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps us out.
The day my daughter-in-law asked me to leave the cane outside so it doesn't ruin the photos, something cracked inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one of those quiet, hairline fractures that you don't notice until the whole wall gives way. I mean, Clara said with her perfect smile voice, it just doesn't really go with the aesthetic, you know? She didn't wait for me to respond. She never did. She was already waving at Alex to fix Nathan's shirt and instructing the photographer on preferred angles. I stood in the entryway of what used to be my house, and technically still was, with my cane in one hand and a bowl of deviled eggs in the other. The cane wasn't stylish, I admit. Matte black, chipped near the base, a rubber stopper that squeaked when it caught on tile, but it kept me upright. And at my age, upright is no small thing. I didn't argue. I never do. I set the cane gently by the door, where she wouldn't see it, but where I could grab it if my knees gave out again. I walked out into the backyard with the eggs and the smile I'd practiced since I was 13. The one that says, everything's fine, even when it isn't, the photographer had set up under the pear tree. Clara stood with her arm delicately threaded through Alex's, their son, Nathan, in front of them in white linen. The colour scheme was all muted tones: sage, cream, dusty rose. Clara had sent out a dress code the week before, as if this were a magazine shoot. "Nothing too loud?" she'd said pointedly when I asked if my navy cardigan would do. She didn't mention the cane then, but she had other ways of editing me. I sat where she told me, smiled when she asked, watched Nathan tug at his collar and squint into the sun. He was 9 now, still sweet, still loud, still happy to see me. When Clara let him. But this wasn't about family. It was about appearances. And the cane ruined the picture. It hadn't always been like this. Or maybe it had, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. My name is Evelyn Martin. I'm 68 years old, a widow of nearly 10 years. I taught middle school English for 32 of those years. I still dream in red pen. My husband, David, was a systems technician, quiet, kind, fond of crossword puzzles and lemon cookies. He passed in his sleep one October morning. Just never woke up. After he died, I lived alone in our old rental duplex in Hyde Park. Modest, but clean. Walkable to the co-op, 2 bus stops from church. I had my routines: the Thursday paper, the Sunday market, coffee at 6:30 a.m. sharp. Life became smaller, but not unbearable. Just quieter. Then came the fall, literally, a slipped rug, a wet floor, and a femur fractured in 2 places. I was on the floor for nearly an hour before the mailman knocked. After surgery, the doctors said I'd need a walker for a few months, then a cane indefinitely. I didn't like the sound of that. Indefinitely always feels like a threat. But I didn't argue. It was Alex who suggested I move in, just for a while, he said. Until you're steady on your feet again. Clara and I have the space now. Nathan would love it. I agreed. I missed Nathan. I missed family. I sold the duplex and used the proceeds, along with the last of David's insurance, to help Alex and Clara buy their new house. A beautiful, sprawling 2-story in Naperville. 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, even a little garden in the back. The mortgage was in Alex's name, for financial simplicity, he said. But we all knew where the down payment had come from, or at least I thought we all knew. The first 6 months were manageable. Clara smiled more back then, although it never quite reached her eyes. She made coffee for me in the mornings. Alex would check in before bed. Nathan would climb into my lap and show me the things he made from Lego bricks. It felt warm, even if a little performative at times. But things shifted slowly, like chairs being moved an inch at a time. It started with the temperature. Just keep the thermostat at 68, Clara said one morning, gently placing her manicured hand over the dial. Nathan runs warm. Then it was the candles. No lavender, sorry, triggers my headaches. Then the TV. No volume after 9 p.m. The walls carry sound. Then came the storage boxes that appeared in my room, labeled holiday decor and Alex's tools. And then one day, I walked into the kitchen and Clara said, flatly, "Would you mind knocking next time? Just so Nathan doesn't get startled." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. She didn't. I started cooking less. They didn't say I couldn't, but I noticed the way Clara re-seasoned things, or how she'd move my Tupperware to the back of the fridge, out of sight. I tried to make myself smaller, took my meals in my room, started saying thank you when Clara let me use the laundry room. Thank you. In my own house. I didn't realize how bad it had become until the night I found Nathan crying in the hallway. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked, kneeling slowly. He sniffled, rubbing his eyes. "Mommy said I can't sleep with you anymore." I sat down beside him on the floor. The hallway was cold. "Did she say why?" "She said your bones hurt and you need space. But I don't care about bones. I just like when you tell stories." I held him until he fell asleep. Then I carried him to his bed, my knees screaming the whole time. The next day, Clara installed a latch on my door. "For your privacy." I began keeping notes, not in any official way. Just scribbles in a notebook I tucked between the pages of my Bible. Dates, comments, moments. March 4th. Clara said I was forgetful. I remembered to pick up Nathan, though. April 2nd. Alex said he didn't remember promising to cover the grocery bill. I have the receipt. May 18. Mail missing. Third time. Asked if Clara had seen it. She said, "Check your room." There was no mail in my room. I started to wonder if I was paranoid. But no, I was just being slowly erased. Like the cane. Ugh. After the photo shoot, Clara handed me a small glass of wine and said, "Let's toast to family." I sipped. It tasted sour. She turned to Alex. "We should do this more often. Have your mom involved in things. It's important for Nathan to see that." I stared at her. She meant visible, not involved. Present, but silent. Smiling in the background like the set piece I had become. I excused myself and went upstairs. My knees ached from all the standing. But more than that, something inside me was throbbing. Not physical. Something older. Something humiliated. I opened my top drawer. Inside was the manila folder. The deed. Still in my name. Clara hadn't checked, or she assumed. Either way, they had no idea. For a moment, I just stared at it. The way you stare at a fire you're thinking of starting. Then I smiled. Not bitter, not cruel, but clean. The day after the photo shoot, I woke early. Before the sun. I sat by the window with my lukewarm tea and watched Clara's garden sprinkler rotate like a lighthouse in slow motion, casting droplets across hydrangeas she never watered by hand. Everything in Clara's world was curated, placed, controlled. Even me. She walked into the kitchen later that morning in her yoga clothes and furrowed her brow when she saw me at the table. "You're up early." I didn't respond, just sipped my tea. She opened the fridge and sighed. "We're out of oat milk again. Did you finish the last carton?" I hadn't. I knew that. But I said nothing. She stared at me for a beat too long. Then closed the fridge, got a glass of water, and walked out. No good morning. No smile. Just that clipped tension in her jaw she saved especially for me. I didn't say a word. But I felt something that had been dormant for a long time stir in my chest. Not anger, not grief, clarity. I called Sheila that afternoon from the garage where I could talk without being overheard. "Sheila," I said, "do you remember that lawyer you used when Jim died? The young one?" "Of course," she said. "David something. Nice boy. Liked lemon bars." "I need to talk to him." She didn't ask why. Sheila never asked until you were ready to tell. Want me to drive you? No, I said. Not yet. I need a few more things to fall into place. We made plans anyway. A coffee meet-up on paper. Something innocent. That night, Clara asked me to watch Nathan while she and Alex went to a neighborhood mixer. We'll only be a few hours, she said. I nodded, but inside I felt the sharp irony. I was good enough to babysit, not good enough for the family photo, not good enough for oat milk. Nathan and I played Go Fish at the kitchen table. He beat me twice, giggling like mad every time I pretended to be surprised. Then he grew quiet, looked up at me with that earnest little face. Grandma, Mommy says you forget things now. I blinked. She does? He nodded. She said that's why she has to help you with the bills and stuff. 'Cause you can't remember numbers. My heart thudded. And do you think that's true? I asked carefully. He shrugged. I don't know. You always remember my birthday? And how I like the corners of my toast cut? I smiled, but inside I was cold. She said you might not live here much longer. He added in a whisper, as if he was the one being disloyal. I leaned forward and touched his hand. Whatever happens, Nathan, I love you. Always. Okay? He nodded, looked down at his cards. His lip wobbled a little. Even if I go away, that doesn't change, I said. That night, after he was asleep, I sat on the porch with my cane across my lap and wrote everything down, word for word, in a notebook I kept hidden behind the water heater. Over the next few weeks, I began to pay closer attention. I noticed how Clara handled the mail, always intercepting it. I asked once if my AARP magazine had arrived. Oh, it must have gone to spam, she said, flipping through a stack without offering it to me. Spam? She meant the recycle bin. I found it the next day, folded and unread, stuffed beneath an Ulta catalogue. I began retrieving my own mail. Then came the password conversation. We should make a shared doc with your bank info, she said one afternoon, all breezy charm. Just in case something happens. For your peace of mind. I stared at her. And your access? She laughed, but her eyes didn't. Well, of course. I mean, Nathan's future is our priority. I nodded slowly. That night, I changed all my passwords. I met with the lawyer a week later, David Rizzo. He was in his early 30s now, beard trimmed, smile easy. I told him the truth. Not the melodramatic version, just the facts. I had funded the house. It was in my name, but I was being erased, quietly but clearly, from my role and place. He listened. Then he said, we can place the house in a trust, one controlled solely by you. That way, even if something happens, they don't get automatic access. It becomes legally protected. Are you prepared for what this might trigger? I'm not burning the bridge, I said. I'm just taking back the deed. He nodded. Then let's begin. Back home, I became invisible again. Clara had started hosting what she called neighborhood enrichment brunches. The kind where women in matching yoga pants discussed almond flour and home equity. I was not invited, but I was allowed to tidy the kitchen afterward. I hope you don't mind, she said once. It's just, they're all in the same phase of life, you know? I smiled. Which phase is that? She blinked. You know, young kids, busy lives. I nodded. Ah, the curated chaos phase. She laughed nervously. You're funny. I wasn't trying to be. One afternoon, I heard Alex and Clara arguing in the upstairs bedroom. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but their voices rose. She's not dumb, Clara, Alex snapped. She's just quiet. She's in the way, Clara hissed. We can't even renovate properly with her here. She gave us this house. She gave us a down payment, Clara corrected. That doesn't make her queen of the castle. I never said— You never said anything, she cut in. That's the problem. You want to keep her happy, and I want to move forward. Pick one. There was a silence, then a drawer slammed. Later that evening, Alex sat across from me at dinner and asked if I'd thought about other living options. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Such as? Well, assisted living, or maybe a condo closer to church. We'd help, of course. Clara smiled sweetly. We'd cover the move and everything. I looked at Nathan, who was busy spooning mashed potatoes onto his grilled cheese. Who suggested this? I asked. We just thought, I see. I didn't argue, but something in my chest shifted from cracked to broken open. I finalized the trust the following week. David emailed the documents. I printed them at the library. Clara never noticed I was gone. I made copies. Put one in a locked box, another with Sheila, and one I kept in the spine of my old recipe book, between the pages for cherry cobbler and lentil stew. Poetic somehow. 2 weeks later, Clara hosted a spring cleanse yard sale. Without asking, she placed a number of my things on the folding tables. My vintage teapot, a scarf David bought me in 1987, even an old photo frame that still had a picture of my mother in it. I didn't shout, didn't argue. I simply walked over, took my items back, and said quietly, "This isn't yours to sell." Clara blushed. "It was just clutter." "No," I said, "it's my history." She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I turned and walked away, cane clicking steadily on the driveway like a gavel. That night, I packed a suitcase, just the essentials. The next morning, while they were still asleep, I walked out the front door. And I didn't come back. I didn't cry when I left. No drama, no slammed doors. Just a quiet click of the gate behind me, the rhythm of my cane on the sidewalk, and the weight of a small rolling suitcase behind me. Inside it were 3 dresses, my best shoes, my Bible, and the deed. Sheila picked me up from the train station in Wheaton. Her little green Subaru pulled up like a blessing, its back seat smelling of rosemary and mints. She stepped out and hugged me tighter than anyone had in years. "Welcome home," she said. I didn't correct her. Home isn't a place. It's where people are glad you arrived. Sheila's house sat low and neat on a quiet street lined with dogwood trees. Her husband Jim had passed away 3 years prior, and she'd since turned the spare bedroom into a guest room with quilted blankets, a writing desk, and a window that faced east. That first night, I slept with the window open. The breeze stirred the curtains. Somewhere in the neighborhood, someone was barbecuing. The smell made me remember summers long ago, when David used to burn the hot dogs and Nathan had sticky popsicle fingers. I didn't miss Alex. I missed the version of him that once existed. The boy who brought me daisies from the schoolyard. The young man who asked my advice on job interviews. But the man who let his wife erase me. That man could keep his beige house and hollow dinners. The next morning, I made Sheila breakfast, not out of obligation, out of gratitude. I fried eggs, buttered toast, brewed real coffee, not the machine kind. She came into the kitchen in slippers and a robe, blinking like a bear out of hibernation. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to." She sat, looked at me. "How do you feel?" "Lighter." We ate in silence for a while. Then I told her everything. Every whispered comment. Every locked drawer. Every time Clara had corrected Nathan when he called me Grandma instead of Evelyn. Sheila listened. She always did. Then she said, "You're not the only one." She pulled a stack of letters from a drawer. Folded papers. Handwritten notes. All from women at church, friends, neighbors. Women who had moved in with their adult children and slowly disappeared. "They call it silent eldering," she said. "When you stop being a person and start being a burden with shoes." I felt something tighten in my chest. Grief, recognition. "Do they ever get out?" I asked. She smiled. "You're here, aren't you?" I called David Rizzo, the lawyer, 2 days later. "I'm ready," I told him. We began the process of selling the house. I'd placed it into a trust under my sole control weeks earlier. No one could stop me now. I didn't need permission. Not from Alex, not from Clara, not from anyone who asked me to hide my cane. I listed it quietly, through a private agent recommended by Sheila's nephew. The goal wasn't fanfare, it was dignity. A clean sale, no drama. The offers came quickly. It was a beautiful home, after all. Cold, but beautiful. I expected Alex to call. He didn't, but Clara did. Her voice was clipped, formal. "We heard about the listing," she said. "You can't be serious." "I'm serious." "You're being vindictive." "No," I said. "I'm being free. You realize we'll have to move. We'll have to uproot Nathan. You'll figure it out." There was a pause. Then her tone turned syrupy. "If this is about what I said about the cane—" "It's not about the cane," I cut in. "It's about the rot beneath the paint. The part you thought I was too old to see." She went quiet. "I'm not angry, Clara. I'm awake." Then I hung up. I wrote down the call in my notebook. Not because I needed evidence, but because I wanted to remember how it felt to finally end a conversation on my terms. The house sold in 17 days. The profit was more than I expected. I'd purchased it with a good down payment in a rising market. Clara's tasteless upgrades, the quartz counters, the industrial sink, apparently appealed to buyers. I opened 3 accounts, one for me. Modest. Enough for the rest of my life without fear. One for a local women's shelter. Sheila and I had volunteered at in our younger days. They were building a new wing. And one anonymous deposit to Nathan's future college fund, because I wouldn't punish a child for his parents' cowardice. Then I bought myself something I hadn't had in years: autonomy. My days at Sheila's passed gently. We gardened. We cooked. We watched old films with too much violin music. I joined her book club again. They still met, still drank too much boxed wine, still gossiped like teenagers. I even picked up painting again, timidly at first. Just watercolors, fruit, cups, windowsills, mundane things. But it made me feel present, grounded. I was sitting on the porch one Saturday when Nathan rode up on a bicycle. I blinked, startled. He was panting, flushed. His helmet sat crooked on his head. "Grandma," he gasped. Sheila looked at me, surprised. I stood up. "Nathan, how—" "I found your address in Dad's old planner." My throat closed. He stepped forward, eyes wide. "Are you okay?" "Mommy said you left because you're sick." I knelt, my cane beside me. "I left because I needed to be somewhere I felt real." He didn't quite understand, but he nodded. "I miss you." I hugged him then. Tight, fierce. "I miss you too." He stayed for 2 hours. Sheila gave him lemonade. I taught him how to watercolor. He painted a very blue tomato. Said it was abstract. Before he left, he handed me a note. "I think they're mad, but I'm not. Please don't forget me." I tucked the note in my recipe book, next to the deed. That night, I baked banana bread. Sheila said it was the best I'd made. "I think it's the revenge," I said. She laughed. "That, or the rum." We toasted. 2 widows. 2 women in their 60s. Not invisible. Not erased. Not phased out. Just still here. Winter came late that year. By the time the first snow fell, I was already used to the rhythm of life at Sheila's. We kept a pot of soup on the stove most days. Wore slippers until noon. Spent whole afternoons organizing drawers and not finishing the job. The days bled into each other in a way that felt like rest, not neglect. I didn't miss the schedule Clara imposed on me. The breakfast by 8, dinner by 6 rigidity. I didn't miss the silence at their table, or the glances when I stood up too slow. And I certainly didn't miss being told when I was too much for a photograph. Instead, I found new habits. Every morning, I walked around the block. Cane in hand, blue coat zipped high, scarf looped twice for good measure. People waved. One neighbor, Joyce, invited me to a knitting group. Another gave me cuttings from her indoor herb garden. I didn't just feel seen, I felt welcome. It was early February when I got the letter from Alex. It wasn't a card, not an email, a real letter written in his hand. The one I used to admire when he scribbled grocery lists as a teenager. Mom, I don't know how to start this. Clara says I shouldn't reach out, but I can't ignore it anymore. Nathan talks about you every day. He keeps the painting you made of the bird on his desk. He says you're the only one who ever really listened to him. I know we failed you. I did, especially. I let things get easy. Easier to pretend everything was fine. Easier to look away. Clara has strong opinions, and I've never been good at saying no. I miss you. I miss your stories. I miss how the house smelled when you made soup. I miss knowing you were downstairs, even if I didn't say much. If you ever want to see us, the door is open. If not, I understand. Love, Alex. I sat with the letter for a long time. Let the words breathe. I didn't cry. I had cried too much already. Sheila made tea. I read it out loud. Then I folded it and placed it under the same ladybug magnet on the fridge that held Nathan's last drawing. Some doors don't need to be slammed shut, but they don't need to be walked through again either. That month, I spoke at the women's shelter I had helped fund. Maritza, the director, asked if I wanted to say a few words at the dedication of the new wing. It was small, just 4 rooms, a kitchenette, and a mural someone's niece had painted. But it had warmth, real warmth. They named it the Evelyn Porch. I stood at the podium in my good scarf and soft boots, hands trembling only slightly. I don't believe in revenge, I said. A pause. Then I smiled. But I do believe in the return of dignity. Murmurs, a few nods. I lived in a house that I paid for but wasn't allowed to decorate. I bought food that I wasn't allowed to cook. I shared my wisdom and was told I was meddling. And one day, I was asked to leave my cane outside so I wouldn't ruin the family photo. A silence settled over the room. But I didn't leave my cane. Another pause. I left the deed. Soft laughter. One woman whispered, "Damn right." I didn't destroy anyone, I continued. I just reminded myself, and them, whose name was on the title. And once I had that clarity, I walked toward my own life again. Not away from them, toward me. Spring crept in slowly. Daffodils first, then birdsong in the morning. The smell of fresh mulch. Nathan visited again, this time with Alex. They parked a few houses down. Nathan knocked. Alex stood behind him, hands folded, face unsure. Sheila opened the door. I was in the garden. I turned, stood slowly. Nathan ran to me, hugged me tight. Alex waited. He didn't speak first. He let me take my time. "I didn't expect you," I said. "I know," he said. "But Nathan wanted to come, and I needed to see you. No agenda." I looked at him. For the first time in years, I looked hard. He looked older, not just in skin, in soul. "Takes strength to come without defense," I said. He nodded. We sat on the porch swing, the 3 of us. Sheila brought lemonade. We didn't talk about the house. We didn't talk about Clara. We just talked about books. About Nathan's science fair. About the cardinal that had made a nest in Sheila's mailbox. Sometimes silence is the best kind of apology. Later that week, I bought myself a gift. A camera. Not digital. Not fancy. Just a sturdy old 35mm I found at a consignment shop. I started taking portraits. Not of people, but of moments. The soup bubbling. The steam on the window. The imprint of my cane in the snow. Photos no one else would want. But they were mine. One afternoon in June, I passed a family taking pictures outside their home. Parents in matching white shirts, a toddler tugging at her sleeve. The grandmother stood nearby, holding her purse awkwardly. She reminded me of me. The mother turned and said, "Mom, can you just sit this one out? We need a clean shot." The older woman blinked, nodded, sat down on the stoop, staring at her hands. I almost walked away. Then I turned. "Ma'am," I said, walking over, "would you like me to take your photo?" She looked up, startled. "I'm not dressed." "You're fine." I lifted the camera. Snapped. She smiled. Hesitant at first. Then real. "I just thought I'd look messy in the family shot," she said softly. "Messy means you were there," I said. She didn't reply, but she didn't stop smiling. I printed the photo, framed it, gave it to the shelter. They hung it in the entryway with a caption, "Scene." And me? I kept going. I painted. I wrote. I made toast exactly how I liked it. I visited Nathan when Clara wasn't home. I sent anonymous donations to the library fund and named one after my mother. One evening, I stood at the mirror brushing my hair and realized something. I no longer flinched when I saw myself. Not because I looked younger, but because I looked present, whole. People say revenge is sweet, but they're wrong. Clarity is sweet. Freedom is sweeter. But peace. Peace is a woman in her late 60s, drinking tea in a quiet room, knowing she's no one's burden and everyone's own.